We're now going to use our drawing template. So we're going to go up to Open. We're going to find our template, and if we've saved this inside of our projects, that should be the main place it shows up. So there's our template. So we're going to say Open. Now remember, we do not want to save over this. So what we want to do is we want to go to File, we want to go to Save As, and we want to call this something else. So we're going to go through and we're going to actually make, at this point, we're going to just make a sample drawing. We're just going to take an object, and I'm going to show you what we need to do with it. Remember, we have to use those dimensioning rules that we did when we were doing hand sketches. So we're going to work with how do we place these on our drawing sheet, and how do we make them show up the way we'd like to. So I'm just going to call mine at this point a sample drawing and save it. And now if you look up here at the top, double check. Now it says sample drawing. It does not say my template. If I forgot, I'd have that on there, and I'd end up having to go back, delete it off, or I'd have to go create another one of these, which we typically don't want to have to do. So we're not going to do that. At this point, now we want to put our images on here. So we're going to start with the base view. It's going to pull up a drawing view over here. It doesn't know what part we actually want to use, so we have to come over here and try to find that part. So here's where it's going to allow us to select the part. In this case, I've got one of the pieces that we made earlier, the one that we cut the little slit into. So we're going to use that part. There it is. It gives you a little preview when you click on it, so you can tell if you got the right one or not. Kind of nice little thing. And so it's going to show that. Notice it's showing me the front of my object. I'm going to move it down. If I would like to, I could check and see if a 2:1 scale would work. In this case, it probably would. When we go to put dimensions around it, it might be a little bit close. We can check that out and see. We can always go back and change it. So I'm slide this up. I'm going to do my top view. But remember, we don't put dimensions on the outsides of objects anyway, so if we put these over towards the edge, that should help out. The worst one is going to be our isometric whenever we go to put it up in here. And it's looking like our isometric might be a little bit large if you look at the outside of the rectangle, but it still fits okay and doesn't overlap. So we could probably get by with this one with a 2:1. If not, we'd switch back to a 1:1. And they fit better that way. So that's all we really needed. So we're going to say OK. At this point, you're going to notice they all turned from being nice and shaded to being just outlines. If we would like to change one of them away from being just outlines, we can right click on it. We can say Edit View. Over to the side we can click, and that's going to give us a shade. So this is shaded. Say OK. And typically isometric is the only thing we're actually going to want to shade. At this point we can do some dimension. If you notice up here inside of our Annotate tab, we have dimension. We also have something called chain dimension. If we choose chain dimension, what we can do is we can click on a bunch of lines that are in the same direction. Sometimes we may want to roll our mouse wheel and scroll in a little bit to make that a little bit easier to choose. And we choose these dimensions. And we right click continue, left click, and then we're able to actually get those dimensions to show up in a chain. We could actually change the way this is set up. We can go through and let's try just some typical regular dimensions. So we could choose from here to here, get a dimension. It's going to allow you to change some of the formatting if you'd like. We could go from here to here, pull that dimension out, and it will snap to certain locations. So you want those to be in a standard pattern. So we want those to snap where we'd like for those to be. So at this point you could go back and you could put more dimensions on. So I forgot to hit OK on these dimensions up here, so we can go back and do them again.